It's the night of April the 13th, 1945, in Zwolle, in the Netherlands. Canadian soldiers from the Régiment de la Chaudière cautiously approach the city under cover of darkness. Crouching low beside the road, the commanding officer asks for 2 volunteers. For those who dare to step forward, the mission will be one of stealth and courage, not force or fight, or so everyone thinks. Despite reports of significant enemy forces in the area, they'll need to enter the city undetected, scout targets, and relay the information back to artillery batteries gearing up for the impending barrage, and if possible, make contact with Dutch partisans. In the quiet still of the night, 24-year-old, bad-tempered French-Canadian private Leo Major and his friend Corporal Willie Arsenault share a quick glance. Then, nodding, the 2 men accept the challenge and throw themselves to their fate. Major, who from previous battles had already suffered many injuries, including a broken back, the loss of one eye, broken ribs, and he'd broken both ankles. Unwilling to be sent home, though, he argued that if he had just one eye to look into the scope, he was still capable of serving his country. "I was a sniper. I still had one good eye, and I could still shoot," he later said. Now weighed down with Sten guns and grenades, the pair scurry into the shadows towards the central square. It's a beautiful old city, and oddly considering the circumstances, Major regrets that in just a few hours, it and many of its citizens will be reduced to rubble and ash. Arsenault agrees, and the daring Canadians hatch an amazing plan that may just save this historic city and its residents. The army of 2 will capture it, single-handedly. Making their way through the city, they occasionally see German soldiers and officers, but they're harried and preoccupied, and some stumble like they're drunk. The 2 men remain undetected. But as midnight approaches, Arsenault makes a fatal blunder, giving away their position, and pays for it dearly when Germans nearby open fire. The 2 men take cover from the incoming fire and muzzle flashes. Major turns to his friend to figure out a way out of this mess, but with horror, he realizes that Arsenault's body is limp and that he's been fatally hit. That horror soon turns to sadness and then rage. Leo, mad with anger at the loss, struggles to restrain his infamous temper. What happens next is extraordinary. Instead of beating a retreat, he decides to continue the plan alone. He continues to the center of Zwolle, arriving at about 1 o'clock in the morning. The city streets are deserted, but spotting a German machine gun nest, he goes on the attack once more, storming it and eliminating the gun crew. Continuing on his rampage through the streets, he shoots at every target he can until he sees the HQ of the SS. It's a juicy target, and bursting through the door, he's confronted by 8 elite soldiers. Major later said, "They pulled a gun on me, but you know, with one eye, I can see better than most people at night. I killed 4 of them. The other 4 ran away." Walking on, he loses track of time and finds himself on the outskirts. When just a few yards away, he sees a young soldier behind the wheel of a German staff car, parked outside of a tavern. Major jumps the young man and takes him captive without firing a shot. Shoving the young soldier through the tavern door, he calmly disarms a tipsy officer drinking alone at the bar. Major assures him that the war will soon be over and that all of hell is coming, and that Major is part of a large allied force advancing on Zwolle. If this scene looks familiar, we were inspired by Quentin Tarantino's film Inglourious Basterds. And if you want to find out the real story behind that, then today's sponsor, Magellan TV, has a great documentary called The Real Inglourious Basterds, true story of the Jewish commandos who inspired Tarantino. Magellan TV is an amazing hub of documentaries and has the richest and most varied content that specializes in history. There are a ton of documentaries we could have shown you extracts for, but we loved this one, and it fits quite nicely into our bar scene. Jewish Americans went behind enemy lines to take vengeance on the Nazis. It's a story where the truth really is stranger than fiction. Magellan TV's mission is to tell you the great stories that have shaped humanity, and Magellan has over 3,000 documentaries to choose from, including a bunch in 4K, with new ones added each week. Magellan TV works on any device or connected TV, and especially for Yarn Hub viewers, you can get 1 month for free. So if you are passionate about history and would like to support the channel, then please click the link below and take a look at their outstanding content. Cleverly leaving out the part about being alone, He adds that the lovely city is about to be subjected to an epic bombardment. Not particularly keen on losing his life for a lost cause, the officer finishes his drink and says he's leaving and takes his men with him. The larger force is already long gone. Out of respect, Major returns the man's sidearm and the two part company. To confirm the officer's claims, Leo Major orders his young captive to drive him through the streets, while he shoots wildly and tosses grenades at targets of opportunity. Though his rampage does little damage, he's hell-bent on making a memorable commotion. Then, unable to find any more targets, he sets his captive free, and with his rage finally spent, the man walks dazed through the deserted streets for hours. Then, near collapse, he meets a wary Dutch farmer who takes him to the head of the local resistance. Major and the rest of the resistance men return to the square to alert residents that the city has been liberated. With just one thing left to do, Major and his new companions commandeer a car and return to collect the body of Arsenault. Sure that the killing and chaos are finally behind them, as the sun rises they carelessly drive towards the Canadian Chaudière, who fire on them, suspecting they're Germans. Furious and exasperated, Major climbs on top of the car, and when his bewildered compatriots recognize him, they lay down their arms. Leo Major reports that the city is nearly free of Germans. With that good news, the artillery bombardment is called off, and the city and its citizens are spared down to Leo Major's actions. For his heroic, if unsanctioned deeds, Major receives the Distinguished Conduct Medal, but ever the rebel, he declines the decoration because he considers General Bernard Montgomery incompetent and in no way worthy of bestowing it upon him. Although many of Major's exploits that night may have been embellished, it seems he killed more than a dozen Germans in multiple engagements. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel and please watch more videos of ours. Thank you.